Hello, everybody. Welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Show. And whilst scrolling through Netflix, hadn't been on there for a few days, so I'm a bit late to the party here. But whilst scrolling through Netflix yesterday, I found the Nicholas Anelka documentary, which I have now watched in two sittings over last night and today. But don't worry, because I made copious notes throughout, as I do, and ruin everything and then come and talk about it online. So I would love to give you my thoughts on the Nicholas Anelka documentary. If you've already seen it, then please keep watching and give me your comments as we go along. If you want to watch it, then stop watching now. Go ahead and watch it and come back to this video another time so I don't spoil anything for those of you who are that way inclined. And if you've got no intention of watching it but still want to stay tuned, then please do so and get your comments in on Nicholas Anelka. Quite the player. I remember finishing my GCSEs, going to the park and being drunk for the first time in my life, and then watching Arsenal win the double in 1998 and Nicholas Anelka scoring with my first ever hangover, which was very, very exciting. So look, this movie, obviously huge success with the Michael Jordan documentary on Netflix, The Last Dance. I don't know whether this one was in the works before that, whether it's a response, but certainly it falls into that earthy, gritty sports star documentary, which is more about the person than about the sportsman, which is with all the great sportsmen, we tend to love the character and the narrative and the story and the person more than the actual sporting feats sometimes. There it is. Let me just remove my banner there. Anelka Misunderstood is what it's called. And I have to say, me being me, I had an issue with that straight away because yes, we need a narrative to attach to this documentary, but I want to make my own mind up about Nicholas Anelka. And if I'm told literally in the title of the movie what I'm supposed to be thinking, that, oh, well, he's misunderstood, then unless it comes across as, look, he's a bit misunderstood, go and explore. But it does sound a little bit, and of course these documentaries are that way inclined. Why would any public figure agree to a documentary to be made about themselves and then not have the privilege of telling the story that they wanted to be told? But I would have liked to have made my own mind up. It's all set out in Dubai, where the Anelka family live. Beautiful family, actually, with his lovely wife and his children in a lovely apartment there. And you get those wonderful shots of Anelka wandering up and down a sand dune. And we get the normal staple in these documentaries of the camcorder clips of the child prodigy footballer dribbling around everyone and scoring 8 goals a game. And then indeed we get into Clairefontaine, where Anelka trained. I think England tried this after at some point in the 90s, didn't they, with Lilleshall? But this is like the elite performance centre for French kids, and quite a few good ones came through. And this is where he met Thierry Henry. All very informative. He's come from the suburbs and got in there. So they set up the tale, excuse me, very nicely, and talk about how driven he was and constantly wanting to play. They go on to PSG, where Anelka starts his career and breaks through there. And the story is that he wasn't overly happily there. And this is the first time we get the idea of Anelka and his issues with authority and issues with the system, and maybe sometimes appearing like he doesn't want to play ball. Well, he says he's not being used enough and that he should be allowed to leave on the Bosman ruling, despite the fact that there's legislation in France to stop this happening. It's a big issue and a big story in France. But in the end, he leaves and goes to Arsenal for $500,000. The first example of this kind of nomadic existence and these maybe issues with authority above him. It's 1997. He comes to Arsenal. I'm sure us English football fans all remember essentially replacing Ian Wright. And I really remember just this. It was at the same time as Michael Owen was on the scene, breaking through, this incredibly fast player. And we're just developing the number 10 in English football. And you have players like Zola and Bergkamp and Paul Merson then being moved sort of further back. I suppose Peter Beardsley was a forerunner to all of this with Gary Lineker. But the idea that if you got this number 10 and this pacey guy that someone would punch holes and all he'd have to do is just use his searing pace to run through behind and score. And of course, Arsenal win the double and go out of your way. They do actually tell this story about the win away at Blackburn, where I think was that their 10th one in a row where they finally surged past Man United. A brilliant goal by Anelka where he lays the goalkeeper down through one-on-one with a dummy and literally sends him for a sandwich and all of those good cliches there. Nearly refuses to show up for his debut. We hear that story with Arsene Wenger, who managed to have the psychology to work with him. And he wins the double, aged 19. So all going well thus far. Does not, however, get selected for the France 98 squad. There's a 28-man squad, like shortlist, and he's going to have to cut 6. I guess it's Aimé Jacquet, isn't it, in 98. And Anelka is one of the guys that gets cut. He's quite rueful about this. I guess it just came for him too soon. They do, however, touch on a brilliant performance later on in a French shirt against England, where he scores 2 goals at Wembley. And just go out of your way to see this goal. That is Zinedine Zidane about to receive a bouncing ball, jump, and play a cushioned half volley through ball through the defence to Anelka. You can see is going to run through and finish. Just a glorious example of everything that's great about Zidane and everything that's great about Anelka. Of course, if you're an aloof guy who likes his privacy and doesn't like bureaucracy above you, then the perfect place to go would be Real Madrid, wouldn't it? Absolutely not. Obviously, hated it there. Good quote. He said, "I understood what it meant to be a star and hated it." Michael Owen said very, very much the same thing, that if he missed one-on-ones in training, the press would report on his performance in training. He seemed to hate the press. The press hated him. They turned on him. And Anelka tells the story, like we get throughout this documentary, of how he was stitched up and how he was misrepresented and misunderstood. He refuses to go to training here. Not the first time that's going to happen. Huge story there. He gets fined and suspended. But another thing that keeps happening through his career, he has trouble with authority. He has fallouts, but he keeps on winning trophies. He's going to come in and destroy Bayern Munich and score in both legs of the semi-final and win in the Champions League. So not doing badly despite the off-pitch stuff. And then he's going to finally add international glory there. A bit pixelated there. Sorry about that. You can see him there next to Vieira and Karenberg, Trezeguet, Deschamps, Desailly, Djorkaeff, Dugarry. I can see Petit, Zidane, that amazing French generation that won back-to-back international tournaments. Obviously eclipsed a little bit by Spain now doing back-to-back-to-back international tournaments. However, that France team were great. Although Anelka says, another great quote, "I participated, but I didn't contribute. And if I could wipe that honour off my list, I would." So some idea of this guy's philosophy and mentality that it's not winning at all costs. It's not, I get a medal because I played 30 minutes and I was part of this squad. No, if I'm not playing in the final and contributing to the win, then the medal is irrelevant to me. So an interesting kind of portrait of his psychology. He goes back to PSG, and that's rather glossed over. I don't know why, but obviously the film was running too long, or they didn't imagine that it was an important part. Talks about his family life and how there wasn't over love towards him. And I just wonder, with my amateur COD psychologist hat on, whether that's what causes his issues with authority, because he's really popular with his teammates, and there's no shortage of really huge names in French football and world football that have come out to talk about Anelka in this. Goes to Liverpool. He says this was the perfect club. And it was a tragic episode here, a bit of a falling out between Houllier and Anelka's brother. I think he goes on loan, and then they're allegedly pitching him to other clubs. And yet again, it just seems that everywhere there's some issue with authority at the top. He goes to Man City, and he's a bit demeaning to Man City, actually. He says, you're here, no one else wanted you, so why not? And if you play with lower level players, you need to score goals. Said he enjoyed working with Kevin Keegan, but very much saw himself as above playing at Man City at the time. Remember, this is pre the Arab money coming in at the Etihad. He's not called up for the 2002 World Cup. Another fallout, this time with authority, with Jacques Santini, who says, if I don't call you up, it's because I don't know enough about you. And his argument is, look, I'm Nicolas Anelka. You should know who I am. And I think probably both sides are in the wrong here. That's not great from Santini. He is a world star at this point, and everyone knows who he is. So it's not the best excuse if he just doesn't want to pick him. But there is a sense that Anelka just doesn't play well with authority. And if he'd learned not to necessarily be a yes man, but to at least play the game and enjoy winning it, maybe his career would have been less bumpy. They immediately then go over to this West Brom scandal. And this is very cleverly positioned in the middle of the film, because this happens towards the back end of his career, but they just want to get it out the way, ready for their main event, so to speak. So the idea here is this celebration that Anelka is doing after scoring against West Ham is the Quenelle, and I am not qualified in any way, shape, form or fashion to talk about this. So I will give you Anelka's defence. He said he wasn't played by Steve Clarke. He wasn't happy about being substitute. So again, issues with authority, and that this was a up yours, so to speak, to Steve Clarke. Only Anelka will ever know whether that's true or not. Obviously, there's some links with that gesture and Nazism, and like I say, I'm not qualified to talk about it, and I don't really want to get into that sort of thing on the channel. But Anelka again proclaims his innocence and that he's misunderstood about this. He gets a 5-game ban, fined €100,000, and he's very keen to point out that they ruled that the gesture itself is anti-Semitic, but Anelka is not anti-Semitic. Very clear to make that distinction. He goes to Fenerbahce and then to Bolton, and that's very much glossed over as well. They're telling the story they want to tell here. And then off he goes to Chelsea, which is a great fit. London, a great team. Again, seems very popular with his teammates. However, and there's a great quote here. This is him missing a penalty in the Champions League final here. I sealed the owner's fate right in his own country, says Anelka there on missing the decisive penalty. He does, however, get his redemption the next season, wins the Premier League Golden Boot, wins the league title, wins the FA Cup as well, and very much enjoyed his time at Chelsea. And then we go to the big finish, which is all about his France career and kind of a defense of his role in the 2010 France World Cup scandal. First of all, this is Thierry Henry in the playoff, the famed handball goal against Ireland. And Anelka seems to feel victimised on Henry's behalf here. So I didn't really quite understand what they were getting at there. I can understand him defending Thierry Henry, but given all the things that had gone against Anelka and all the times he was, painted as the villain, maybe he's just so at home in that role of, rightly or wrongly, of feeling the victim in all situations that he kind of goes alongside his friend Thierry Henry to defend him there, despite not really doing anything wrong himself. Then we get to the big narrative tale that I think is the story that they wanted to tell. It's Raymond Domenech versus Nicolas Anelka in the 2010 World Cup. There's plenty of quotes here from sort of William Gallas and Patrice Evra saying that Anelka thought that all wasn't well going into the World Cup, that the makeup and the pattern of play of the team wasn't right, and the atmosphere wasn't right. The warm-up games didn't go well, and that he was going to fall victim to this because as a forward, he does point out, and this is a fair comment, that if the pattern of play behind a forward is wrong, then the forward will look stupid because they won't get any chances and they'll end up chasing around out of position trying to get into the game, which frankly is not their fault that they're not in. So I do accept that. They draw the first game, and then at halftime in the second game against Mexico, he takes matters into his own hands. He starts coming deep for the ball. There's a big argument between Anelka and Dominic at halftime, and he is subbed out. And what follows is an absolute storm involving the French press, the French Prime Minister, Nicolas Sarkozy. So Anelka is accused of saying the words, "Go F yourself, you dirty S of a B," which he denies to this day. And he does have a lot of teammates say that he did not say that. I don't doubt for 1 minute that he told Dominic in no uncertain terms that he wasn't happy with the pattern of play and how he was being played. And I'm sure it was delivered in an emotional manner, let's just say. But what the French press printed was wrong, apparently. And this has been proven since. And they even do remember Michael Jordan in The Last Dance looking at the iPad, watching Isaiah Thomas speaking about him. Very similar. They have Anelka watch Raymond Dominic say he didn't say what the French press said. And this seems very important to Anelka. It seems, to be honest, the whole vehicle for this documentary is to, debunk the idea that he's a sulk and he's this terrible person with all these troubles with authority. They point out the legal ramifications of this. They didn't win the defamation suit on the basis that L'Équipe's words fell within the scope of journalistic freedom of expression. However, they're very keen to point out that the headline itself was defamatory. So, look, you can kind of see the tone and tenor of this documentary is very much Nicolas Anelka presenting his side of the argument. And I don't know how I feel about it. It's certainly an interesting watch. He's certainly a fascinating guy. A guitarist, in fact, a wise friend of me once said, "Ben, you know that saying, there's no smoke without fire?" Well, I do believe in that. And that's always stuck with me from when he said that. And you do have to look through all of this and, wanting to leave PSG and then not wanting to make his debut for Arsenal. And then the big fallouts in Madrid and at Euro 2000, he's unhappy with himself. Liverpool leaves on not great terms. West Brom, the issues there with Steve Clarke and the salute that was given. And then the massive fallout with France. There's a lot of ammunition against Anelka. Like I say, you can see by calling the movie Anelka Misunderstood that the Anelka people and the people behind the movie are telling us that, look, this guy's misunderstood. You want to hear his side of the story. And maybe he's right. I don't know. It's a difficult one. I'd be interested in your thoughts in the comments. So just always remember going to see a Russell Brand stand-up show. And he'd had an altercation with a journalist, Peter Hitchens, on TV. And a long part of Russell's set that night was showing clips of this altercation with Peter Hitchens and kind of rewriting history and saying, oh, well, this is what I wanted to say and this is this, and, kind of poking fun while Peter Hitchens wasn't there. And whatever you think of Russell Brand or Peter Hitchens, the analogy I'm trying to draw is I kind of thought, well, why don't you have a debate with Peter Hitchens? Because it's always good to see both sides and hear both sides. And, history is what it is, and rewriting it if we're mischaractered is one thing, but does it need to be more balanced and not just that this is my side of this is my side of this is my side of this? He does seem to be at peace. Like I say, he's got a beautiful wife, beautiful kids, a nice life in Dubai. He says he's traveled the world. and made a lot of money. But he obviously still has this thing where he's not at peace with some of the things that have happened with his career. So look, who the hell am I, a bloke in Bedfordshire on the internet, to tell a handsome, famous, successful, hugely talented man what's right or wrong for him? And if it makes him happy and it's important and it's closure for him, then more power to him. But you can see that the documentary is kind of skewed in the way of, Anelka telling his story and trying to debunk this idea that he's not Le Sulk or whatever he was called back in the day. That's my reaction to seeing the movie. I think it's a good watch, and I think it's a fascinating piece of work. What I will say is there is no doubt of this man's greatness here. Look at the honours list. And one thing you'll notice about the honours list is it goes right the way through his career. He is winning, and winning. Premier League, FA Cup, Charity Shield, Champions League, Super League in Turkey, another Premier League, 2 more FA Cups, Charity Shield, Champions League runner-up, Serie A with Juve. He's just won absolutely everything other than being in that World Cup squad in 1998. So look, be under no illusions. This man is a great footballer and has had a career of the top 1% of anybody who ever even thought about kicking a ball. But remember, the movie's not about is he a great footballer or not. It's, is he misunderstood? Is he misrepresented? And, do you go along with the debunking of some of these issues? Very interesting watch. I'd be interested in your thoughts if you've seen the documentary, and even if you haven't, your thoughts on what I've said. And I've tried to be fairly balanced. I don't think it's by any means a puff piece, because there's a lot of stuff in there that doesn't reflect well on Anelka, and he does come across as reflective. Just whether or not it's entirely balanced is a different matter. But then, like I say, if it's my movie and I'm arguing my point and I think I'm misunderstood, then of course I'm going to argue the opposite. Let me know what you think in the comments. You can support the channel over on Patreon for $3 a month. You can just make a donation to the channel and help my pursuits of trying to do this full-time or part-time. Or for $5, you can subscribe to the next tier up, whereby you get my Patreon exclusive vlogs and Q&As. At the moment, I have an issue with my YouTube AdSense account where I've sent off for a pin. I cannot make money on YouTube, so there's no super chats and there's no ad revenue for possibly the next 2 to 4 weeks, according to the YouTube guidelines. So if you do like the channel and you do want to support, please go via Patreon, because I am making nothing out of YouTube for the next few weeks. In the main, you can support for absolutely free by sticking your thumbs up on this video. That would be great. By commenting, get involved in the comments. Please try and discuss in a way that you would do if you were face to face with the person. And don't be an arse. You can agree, disagree, educate without being a nasty piece of work like we sometimes get online. We sometimes get in the comments, and I get on a daily basis, despite trying to be very balanced. I think people are very attached to their tribes sometimes, and unfortunately, their critical thinking skills do not overlay and outweigh their tribal beliefs sometimes. What I would really love you to do is subscribe to the channel. 11,200 subscribers we have got. And yes, whilst done without ad revenue and super chats, let's just build the channel up and want as many subscribers as possible to see these videos. And hopefully we can get the best community talking about football anywhere on YouTube. Wouldn't that be a fine thing? Moreover, get your thoughts in on Anelka, misunderstood. A good portrait telling a story that needs to be told in Anelka's favour, a puff piece all in Anelka's favour, or, as is normally the case, somewhere in between. You let me know your thoughts. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Over and out.